So first question,
Mhm.
start off kind of, I guess, the most basic question of them all
Yep.
is I think I remember seeing somewhere a while back that you said that you had a bit of an athletic upbringing. If I did see that correctly, where did that kind of transition into, I guess, bodybuilding, and how did you find out about that, and where did that all kind of start?
Yep. So I grew up doing gymnastics.
Yeah.
So I started probably when I was about 9 years old, until about 14. And then from there, I went into CrossFit
Hmm.
from 14 until probably about 18. And then from bodybuilding until
Now.
from 18 until now. Yeah. Yeah. So I started like lifting weights when I was about 14. So, and then obviously in gymnastics, a lot of strength
Your
movements.
strength from like body.
Yeah. So, like, always been like strength training and doing a lot of like stuff that's dependent on like your body composition
Yeah.
changing. So from a very early age, very athletic. Yeah.
I guess in some way it's I went to school with someone who did gymnastics, and like she placed I think second in Australia one of our years while we were at school. So like I understand like how much that can actually how strong that can actually make you doing
Yeah,
gym.
well, it helps with your development a lot. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I think, like, especially with my upper body, was like extremely developed growing up. Even before I did start like specifically training
Training.
for aesthetics,
Yeah.
it was already very much like there.
Yeah.
Um, Especially my back and that as well. That's why I think like I have that
That
very
really
good
good hour.
lap shape. Is because you're obviously doing a lot of pulling through gymnastics. Like, it's just something that's going to happen regardless.
So what was the transition, I guess? What got you interested in CrossFit? Like was that school related, friend related? Why did
Um,
you gymnastics?
so I stopped gymnastics because my gym shut down where we were down in South Australia.
Yeah.
And then we moved up to Queensland, and I kind of wanted something else to do, something
Mhm.
that was more challenging. And my brother actually mentioned that I would enjoy CrossFit because it has a lot of similar like movements, like doing the handstand
Yeah.
push-ups, muscle ups, and toaster bars and all that. So I remember going and I just loved it straight away. And I was already kind of like quite good at it
Yeah,
without
because
having to do any of the actual CrossFit, first of all, because I already had
it's
that in like,
gymnastics, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Kind of getting the
And then
upper
it was
hand.
just, yeah. And then it was just like the weightlifting side of things that was quite new to me. Um, so from there, um, I did a fair bit of like competing in CrossFit as well. But it was kind of, yeah, come to an end probably around 17, 18 because I had a bit of like ongoing lower back stuff
Issue.
going on
Yeah.
from gymnastics. So it started when I was quite little because it was like obviously you're overextending your spine constantly.
Yeah.
Like the positions you're putting in is kind of like your body in is kind of unnatural.
Yeah.
Plus then adding load to that was just
Doing
compressing
more
and
damage.
then extending, and it was just kind of making my lower back a little bit messed up.
Yeah.
Um, so I took a break from CrossFit, but I still wanted to keep
What-
training. Um, and that's when I started training at the gym, like just conventionally. Through school, I remember it was probably the first time that I like started taking it a bit more seriously
Cool.
because we had that as like a subject in
Oh,
school
that's cool.
that you could go and like go to the gym.
Yeah, that's sick as.
Yeah. So I used to go to the gym, yeah, for one of my subjects. And then I remember just like meeting people at the gym and them being like, oh, have you thought of doing bodybuilding? Like, have you thought of competing? And I was like, oh, maybe. And then the first coach that I ever had, Nathan Page, he
Yeah.
was with IFBB Elite. He took me on and did my first prep with me. So that was when I was 18. So that
So
was 18.
when you did that prep, that was for IFBB Elite, not
Elite.
yeah, yeah. So not
Yeah.
for Pro League. Yeah, yeah.
Because they didn't have wellness at that stage in
Yeah.
IFBB Pro League. And I always loved it. Like the category always just like jumped out to me straight away. I always toss up though as well between that and figure, just because of
That,
yeah,
that was a question that I was going to get to. So we'll definitely get back to that.
yeah.
So with your first coach and doing I didn't know that. So IFBB Elite had wellness then.
Yeah, so they've had it for ages. That's why you see like a lot of the pros now already like ridiculously
Yeah.
developed and look like they've just come out of nowhere, but like
Yeah.
they've already been pros in the
So it
other
was just that
federations.
transition over to the IFBB getting in.
Yeah, because they've had their pro cards for years and been competing as pros. It's just slightly different, like with the posing and stuff as well. I remember my first show after I did elite and then went to pro league. I did all the wrong poses still because I didn't really know, and it was
Yeah.
a little bit like not so defined on what they wanted as
Mhm.
well. So I remember that was one thing they gave me a bit of feedback for, like just holding my arm up too high or whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was just like little bits, a bit different from one federation to the
Yeah,
next.
yeah. Which
Yeah,
which makes sense, I guess. You know, federation, you need a particular what do you call it? Rules or what you're judging on to kind of separate you, so you're not directly copying the other federation.
yeah, of course it needs to be a bit more different to find. Yeah.
So back to what you were kind of saying. So because I was unaware that wellness had always been a thing. I thought it was something that had only just recently came along. So I was going to ask what kind of made you choose wellness, and if that was, well, you can still answer that question. What drew you to wellness over, I guess, the bikini look or even figure?
Yeah. I think even like when I started training like bodybuilding,
Yeah,
I think I was probably already too over muscled for
for
bikini,
bikini. Yeah,
like just because of my
that upper
athletic
back.
background, just like everything. I would say my quads were too big, my
Yeah,
back was too big, my delts were too big. So it would have just been a little bit silly to strip back that
yeah,
too far, and really not, I guess, tap into that further potential.
potential. Yeah,
Yeah. But I remember, yeah, just looking through online and just even like girls on social media and that I really liked the look of finding
yeah,
out more about like what they actually did. Um, and naturally, like I like with my genetics, I have quite big glutes. So
yeah.
that was like kind of thing that was like, okay, wellness might be the go. Even though like I may have lacked a little bit in like my hamstrings and that as well, but it's something you can work towards. Like you never
Mm,
start off and you're already
the
like
perfect.
perfectly right there. So it was, yeah, definitely I liked that look. It was very feminine. Um, and it was something that I guess I wanted to look like
Yeah.
as I grew up into a woman. That's something that, yeah,
It was
definitely.
always something that, I've seen. I guess it's got like I've seen with a few female athletes, and I guess it's even similar. I guess when you compare it to like male athletes with classic and bodybuilding, and certain people think, oh, okay,
Yeah,
well, I can do a vacuum or I have a small waist. I fit more classic, but oh, when you really get to the nitty gritty, you're actually more standard open bodybuilding because how you were saying you kind of thought about I guess figure to some degree because when you look at your waist to you how because I remember when I first saw you I think it was just before you stepped on stage against Jacinta in that in
yeah,
2019 or 2020. I remember when I first saw you training for that prep at Burley. I was like, holy shit, I've never seen a female with like that wide of a back. Like I was really impressed and I was like, this
yeah,
is crazy, this is so cool.
yeah. Love
um
that day.
and so I guess how do you for you, like you're saying, was it just you going, oh, okay, I prefer the overall look of a wellness physique in comparison to a figure? Like how did you draw the line of going, okay, I have these like big glutes, but I don't necessarily have the other part of the legs, and that's wellness, but then I have this really wide back, which is you could maybe consider more figure than wellness.
Yeah. So I guess I look at it as like I was quite proportioned,
Yeah.
like when I probably first competed. Like I wasn't overly. heavily leg dominant.
Yeah.
Whereas like now that I've obviously put in a lot more work, it's starting to like show a little bit more separation
Yeah.
towards leg dominance, because obviously pulling back the volume on my upper. But I guess like it always kind of is in the back of my mind if I would have to move up to figure. I don't like, it's not something that I foresee, but like it's not something that I would completely rule out.
Yeah.
But for now, it's definitely, I'm just working
Well,
towards wellness,
well,
because I already think that like my upper body's like at the level of development where I really wouldn't need to change anything.
yeah.
So
Full figure, yeah.
yeah, so for me now it's just purely training just to gain size on my legs,
Lower body.
which
Good.
isn't the worst thing because I can just put my whole focus
Focus
now
on that, yeah.
on just growing my lower body. Yeah.
Yeah, it was always something that I was, because I remember going back to that show with Jacinta, and like I'll be honest, I thought I actually had you winning, but that's all. But I also wasn't quite aware what they were necessarily looking for. But because, like you're saying, you just naturally have those bigger glutes. So I guess when then you think about, your upper body is very transparent, full figure, but in some manner, maybe your lower doesn't necessarily fit the same because you've been. It's kind of like what I was talking, with Louis. You have certain gifts, or you genetically disposition a certain way, so you might as well play to those strengths. And
You have to, yeah. Like at the end of the day, like your genetics do choose what category you do.
yeah,
Like there's a little bit of leeway, but like you can't push too far against that,
yeah,
because you're just going to like it's going to hurt you in the end, that you are not going to be able to achieve as much if you're trying so hard for one thing that you can't really do. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So from that show, what year was that? 2019, 2020?
So my first show was 2018.
Yeah,
The second show with just in a and that when it was I think it was the second wellness show they had in Pro League.
yeah.
That was 2020. That was the weird one down in Melbourne when COVID was
All
like,
over
that
the
was
place.
just, yeah, shit show. And then yeah, from this one
And
as
then
well.
yeah, you had a break.
Yeah.
So did you have the same coach going into those first two shows, or
No, no. So first show was just Nathan.
yeah,
Second show was kind of, I'm excited to have a smooth prep because I haven't really had the smoothest of preps. So I think this time around will be really good.
yeah,
Um, but the second show was kind of like a last minute decision. I think I did maybe like an 8-week prep,
yeah,
which wasn't the greatest thing I could have done, but like it's a good learning lesson. Like you always learn heaps.
yeah.
So Sam helped me for most of my prep,
Okay.
and then Mike ended up helping me just with the last little bit. And then into this show, I prepped myself up until a couple of weeks
And then
out
and
with
then
Ross.
Rush jumped on board. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was going to ask about that because I remember I wasn't too sure who coached you going into that show, and I just remember that seeing a Mike helping out a little bit, so I wasn't too sure if he had helped with the whole prep or if he kind of helped just a bit afterwards or
Yeah.
tail end.
Yeah. So it was both of those guys that helped me into that show. But like again, I even think the same with the show, like I just lacked conditioning.
Yeah.
Like the first show, I think my very first comp was probably my best condition wise, which is ironic. But then my second show, I just don't think I had a long enough prep.
Prep, yeah.
And then obviously it's hard changing two methods too. Was
Yeah.
really I should have just stuck with the one method. And then this show, like I think I did pretty well considering, but like again, it's just a lot to kind of guess yourself what you're doing and what's going to be right for you. It's so subjective, and sometimes you definitely don't see yourself how you really are as
Yeah.
well.
How you really look. And
Yeah.
I
So
guess not having that not having, I guess, either, the preps prior necessarily having, the extensive knowledge.
Yeah.
So going into yourself, it made it even harder to kind of, have those expectations. Okay, I need to be sitting here, or I know my body enough now where I feel like when you get to that point where you can prep yourself successfully, you got to really, really understand and know your body. And because you just, I guess, like you're saying, weren't as successful with the other preps, that it just maybe wasn't at that point yet.
Yeah, like I spent a fair bit of time, like pretty much almost the whole 2 years in the off season, like doing all my own training on that. I did have like a few people, like other people help me along the way, but like taking the time to get to know how my body responded and that. But it's just different. Like there's just things that like you can either push yourself too hard or not hard enough as well. And I'm definitely very like, what's the word? Like I'm very hard on myself. So sometimes I don't really see myself for how I am.
Yeah.
So it's not always the best thing having my own guidance because it can be quite like take such a big toll on you almost.
No, 100%. I think it's definitely important. And it really shows why having a coach and got to guide you is so important. Because even like, talking to someone on another podcast like Scott, and he was saying, he just he was so hard on himself that he literally just ruined his physique for the Queensland show. And in doing so then for nationals, he got a friend of his to coach him, which, and he was just shocked because his coach was like, let's pull back a bit. You're being too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you don't always realize that until it's maybe a bit too late.
Yeah. And it's hard because like obviously your body responds best when you're in the best like mental state, when stress is the lowest. So if you're constantly so highly strung and stressed about if you're doing the right thing, your body's probably not going to respond to what you're actually prescribing yourself as well as it would if you were just like trusting the process and like just relaxing a little bit more about it as well. So that's definitely one thing that either you need to be on about and like just chill the fuck out, or
We'll have
or
that coach.
have someone there to take that into their hands so then you can just like trust it and go with it.
So it must be an exciting thing. I don't know if are you doing season A as well?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go straight in. I was gonna do like a few back-to-back shows after this one,
Yeah,
but like financially I just needed
not
to
the
get
best decision.
a bit better of a position. So that way at least we can kind of be ready to go, because it was kind of like a last minute thing that like I would continue going. I was like, I don't know if I can actually afford that right now.
But oh, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so just obviously aiming for season A seems a bit more
A bit more reasonable.
Keep going. Yeah.
No, because similar to Louis, I do really think that you are in that position. Like you said, the only thing that has really been, I guess, the knock has been that conditioning. So you're in that position where and I remember saying this to you at the Queensland State Show. Like I felt like if you were a bit more conditioned and that glute tie hammer, I honestly I think it would have been yours. So like obviously it's good that you kind of already have that size and shape what's needed, and so being able to, I guess, give your body the time instead of jumping, like you said, to some shows now to rest, recover, while still working with Ross, it should hopefully make season A. So what I guess we're 23 weeks out, or 22 now.
Yeah.
But you would have had that extra in between from nationals, so you now are actually going to get that full prep with guidance.
Oh yeah. It's going to be very good.
How excited are you for that, and what's necessarily is there any particular game plan to really bring in that sharper conditioning, or do you think that it's just going to naturally come along now that you have the guidance and the longer time period to work towards it?
Yeah, like obviously like Ross is going to have a good game plan set out once we obviously start prepping, but I think it won't be an issue because I'll have someone from the very get-go for a longer like period of time, which I haven't had since my very first show. And obviously just the experience of now doing a few preps and one that I'd done just recently, obviously, like I think when you don't prep for a while, you kind of forget almost like the process in the way of like what mentally you go through, and then like the whole being backstage and what it feels like being on stage. So I'm really happy that I did
the recent show.
Season. Yeah, just to kind of refresh and get all that
Like
back in what it feels like. Yeah. And then I can come into this one pretty ready to go. Like, I know there's a lot of things that I could have done better, which then I can take with me into this one and just keep working on them, instead of like having a long off season, then having to prepare again and almost forgetting what it feels like again.
No, I think
yeah.
I think that's a really good point, and something people kind of forget as well, in that regard, that, as much as it's good to take time off to really, I guess, grow, but if you don't need to grow, and you've taken a longer time off, and you do, like you said, you forget what it's like to be on stage, you forget what it's like to be backstage, you forget about that mindset and everything that you got to do through prep. And so I can see how kind of going back to it can be a bit hard. So, having these back-to-back seasons, if you're in that position where you can, at least you're in that right focus and the zone, what you need to be done. So you can, I guess, translate something that may have got missed in the previous show because you may have forgotten, and succeed in this one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's exciting. Like, I'm just excited to be able to get the conditioning that I need, really, and like bring a look, because I think that look is going to be, quite impressive. So I'm really excited to be able to get to that point where I can show that finally, which is going to be, really good.
I think it's hard. Like, I'm sure it's maybe been a bit discouraging in some way, that I guess that you haven't been able to bring that 100%, but then even though you haven't, you've still excelled in quite a good manner. So I guess maybe even though with it's that flip, even with a bit of discourage, you're also like, wow, I can't even wait to see that new package.
Yeah, because I'm very fortunate that like my shape and that has carried me to still get pretty decent placings.
Yeah.
But as well, like, I think like I took this show and like the placings, or lack of placings for nationals, way better than I did like in the previous season, which is funny because like in the previous season, I came first in novice. I think it was second in open. And then at the Arnold's one, it was like third in novice. But every single time I was shattered. I was just like so not in a great headspace towards myself. And I didn't see that as achievements at all.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like, for me, I didn't really like, the placing wasn't of importance because I wasn't really happy with like the package I brought.
The package you brought.
So even though, I've got like these medals now, like what I represented wasn't what I wanted to represent. So it's like, this is to show for what though,
Yeah, exactly.
But like this time around, I was definitely a lot happier with like my package. So I wasn't like, regardless of the outcome, I was again just happier about it. Even though I still want more. Like obviously everyone goes to a show to
win
the show. And I know I'll get more, but I was just definitely not going to be so down upon myself this time, because it just ruins the whole experience.
Definitely.
Well, And that's a sore loser, you gotta be better than that.
Exactly. No, I think it's really good that you've been able to have that personal growth from show to show, because I remember James Hollingshed was talking about this on one of the podcasts with Foyad, and he was saying, he's kind of in that mind state now. Like, he's like, I want to bring a package to stage that I'm happy about. So if I win, because, and I'm happy with the package, that winning is 10 times better than if I win and I'm not happy with the package.
Yeah,
Because
because realistically, it doesn't mean like if you don't look a certain way, then what's the whole point? Like that's what you're trying to do. You're competing in bodybuilding.
exactly.
Yeah.
So stepping away from the competing side,
Mhm.
what has it been like uh transitioning? Because I know that since being with Louis, you've started, and he mentioned it, being a assistant or head coach in UP.
Yeah.
What has that journey, or I guess experience, been like for yourself? Was it something that you thought you always kind of wanted to do, or just kind of share what that experience has been like?
Oh, I've always wanted to train people. I've always just got in my own way with most things in life. So I love it. I honestly love it. And it's been such a nice transition, like actually finally doing something that feels very rewarding. Like I've been in jobs where like they're okay,
Mhm.
but it's not like you don't feel really accomplished by doing something. Like you don't really feel like you're helping or making such a big impact in people's lives. So like finally something I can do. Um, and like it's just been so wonderful to like help women
Yeah,
and relate to them with like not just like training and eating struggles, but like it's such the mental side of things that we all go through. And like being able to help them through that kind of stuff, as well as, helping with their body composition and their eating habits and stuff. It's it just feels like exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've always wanted to be doing. Like I remember like I left school in year 11 to go do my PT courses, and it's just
okay.
something that I've never actually worked in. Like I've done some coaching on the side, like I did gymnastics coaching and
Yeah.
CrossFit coaching, but not like to this
Level.
level of engagement with the whole process.
No, that I can see how that's really, really rewarding, especially for myself, like just in general. I enjoy, helping people whenever
Yeah,
I can. So, and the enjoyment that I get out of that in compared to, I guess, or even like the enjoyment that I get out of doing this compared to, just not that this is a job yet, but
yeah,
working retail, like you're saying, there's just that different when, that passion's there.
of course.
And
Yeah.
I think it's also really important. And I thought it was really, really good when I saw you kind of step up to being another coach, was like you said, I think there's nothing wrong with men coaching women at all. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, like you're saying, there's only so much, a male can do. Like he can do all the bodybuilding stuff, all the body composition, all the general basics, but it's being able to, I guess, like you said, being relatable as a female and be able to go, oh, I've been in that mental mind state before, or okay, you're doing this, I can relate because I'm another female. So I think it's really, exciting for the team and exciting for the, whether, let's say, one of the female athletes, they personally get coached by Louis, but at least, you're there that they can talk to. I think that's
That's
really
like,
important.
yeah, that's like Nikita. Like she's coached by Louis, but like I'm always there to try and like, be onto her about her mindset or, these little things because like they make a difference. And I think women are a lot more emotional when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think as a male, like as a coach, if you're not like taking the time to like be around that much, it
Yeah.
can probably be quite frustrating or like, why are you being like this?
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, no, 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 it's okay. Like we'll just go through it and we'll talk through it and try and implement things that are going to help. Or so it, yeah, definitely just adds that other side to things that makes, yeah, people maybe feel a bit more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so important because bodybuilding is not just a physical sport. It's a very, mental sport. It's probably more of a mental sport than anything else. And I think a lot of us bodybuilders can, agree to that.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, yeah, having someone that you can talk to or relate to is, very important. So it's good that you have that passion, because I think sometimes you can do that, but if the passion's lacking, you can tell, like when you interact with someone, and it's good that you have that passion already there. So it obviously must, translate better for, the female athletes.
Yeah, and definitely like always want to progress on my knowledge and stuff as well. Like there's so much you can constantly
Yeah.
learn. Like there's just unlimited amounts of shit out there. So it's exciting that like hopefully I would love to do a bit more in-depth nutrition and stuff, and just so I can really offer people the best that
Yeah.
I possibly can. So it's really exciting because there's so much I can like we can do from here
Yeah.
as like a team now, It's just yeah, there's no
Many
limitation.
doors are open.
Yeah, definitely.
Are
Yeah.
you only doing a gen pop at the moment, or are you open to prepping, or do you feel that you want to get a bit more knowledge first, or do you feel like that you do have the knowledge?
Yeah, so definitely I would be working with people for a little while before I would even suggest them to prep regardless. Obviously you have to get a good, I think, a client coach relationship
Mhm.
and like just see how they operate.
Very
Because it
important.
takes time. But yeah, I definitely want to take some people to be able to prep and to the stage. Like that's ultimately what I've always wanted to do is help athletes.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I have a fair few girls now that that's something that they're
You want to do.
interested in looking towards. So that'll be really, really exciting when I can go through that process with them.
I can imagine there'd be even a bigger sense of an accomplishment or a reward, I guess, because you know like the struggle of getting to stage and what it takes out of you. So I guess you know seeing being a part of an athlete and helping them achieve the same thing, how that could be different compared to just helping a gen pop put on some muscle or lose some weight. There's definitely that difference in, I guess, achievement.
Yeah, I think each like everyone's goals are like equally important.
Yeah.
But I guess like as an athlete and as a competitor, my main thing I think about is to try and not help them avoid like my mistakes with like maybe my mindset or
Yeah.
habits or that, but just kind of help navigate the way through a little bit better so they don't have to kind of run into these
So
roadblocks and kind of feel quite lost. So that's kind of something I always thought, like just help these women with things that I have probably struggled with or that I may have wanted help with, that I can be that like guidance for them as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exciting. It's always good to hear things like that. I think it's really important. I think we live, unfortunately, um, we live in a world where I think in this point, well, there's not a lot of support out there as you think.
Mm.
And I think, and it's always I like hearing or seeing people that want to help and give that support to others, and give back from experiences that they've heard. So I just want to give you your flowers for that. I think it's really, really good to hear.
Yeah. I think it's just like people aren't super transparent, especially on social media and stuff. So it makes people feel maybe quite alone with what they're going through, that they may be the only one. But it's like if you can help people realize like it's just kind of something, whatever the challenge may be that you go through,
Yeah.
kind of everyone does experience it, but everyone's trying to look
Cool.
absolutely perfect all the
Yeah.
time. So yeah, it'd be nice to be able to help people as well and feel just like, they're just going through life just like every one of us.
All right, so back to bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Who do you like? Who are you going for? With the Olympia, like who's your? Okay, I'll break into two questions.
Yeah.
Question one is who who would you like to see win the Olympia this year? Like, would you like the reigning champion to win again, or someone else? And then the second part of that question is, if you do, are able to get your pro card, in the beginning of next year, um, who are some athletes that you look up to that you would like to stand beside?
Yeah. Um, I'm honestly terrible. I don't really follow it too
Oh,
much.
really?
I've never been like, it's interesting. Like, I've always ever only done sports
Yeah,
for me.
yeah,
Like, I've never, like, as much as I like really admire people, I've never kind of like put them on pedestals where I'm like,
yeah. Like idolize them.
yeah, or like, yeah, I don't know. I've just kind of done the sport because I love the sport. It's
Yeah,
not something that I like think about too much on like who's going to place and this and that. Um, like there's definitely lots of wellness girls I follow that I think are amazing. Um, like I think the girl who won the Olympia, I can't pronounce her name, Fran something or
yeah.
other.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
Like I think she's like beautiful and like I think she's very much obviously like something you would aim for as a wellness competitor because she's so feminine and so
yeah.
beautiful and you can see that she hasn't lost any of that along the way, which is that like that's what I aspire
Important
to
for you.
absolutely 100% keep with me is my femininity. I'd never sacrifice that for anything. So I look at her and I think that's quite
Yeah,
admirable and like she's got kids and stuff too, like what an incredible woman.
yeah,
Like whereas some of these other girls that I look at like are still amazing athletes, but like you see like Eurishna and stuff, they just like I think you go a bit too
mm.
far at the other end of the scale where you kind of lose that femininity
Femininity.
through the
Yeah,
sport. Um, which I mean they're obviously dedicated and do everything they can to, do very well. Um, but yeah, I think sometimes they push a bit too far
yeah.
in one direction.
Because I was just about to ask you that, and what your opinion on is, for example, someone like Eurishna, like she has an amazing physique,
Yeah,
you know,
undoubtedly.
top three, but it's kind of like, do you agree with necessarily, yeah, that shape and that look in comparison to someone like her or someone like oh, what's her name? She's going to Olympia this year. Starts with M. Oh, I can't think. But she's got, like you're saying, that really feminine look as well. So that's why I would, because it's interesting. I feel like this, outside of open and like classic, I find, with men's physique and even wellness, and there are two categories that is like in a, I guess, finding itself again. What that balance of, or
Yeah.
what are we looking for?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was just interested to hear, and you've kind of voiced it, what's important to you, and it's that femininity
Yeah.
while still achieving that shape and
Yeah.
size.
Well, I think like I'm still so young and like I have a lot of like muscle and muscle development and like I'm only gonna keep going. So it's not like there's no rush
Mm,
to like get there straight away. So you don't have to, I really don't believe you have to sacrifice any of that along the way. Like if you just take the time and you do it properly, like you will be rewarded instead of, jumping the gun a bit too quick by trying to access all these things that sure they'll get you there, but like maybe you miss out on a
yeah,
few things along the way.
I get
So
what you're trying to say.
yeah, I think it's definitely something that you can do and still be intact and very healthy and
And I
yeah.
think, I think that's important. I
Yeah.
think, that's why we have women's bodybuilding. Like it is there, for the women that want to be that size. But I feel like every class, even women's physique, you know,
Yeah.
and figure, there's still that element of, keeping that femininity. And I think that is really important. And it's good to see that that is something that is getting pushed within
Yeah,
the
it's definitely
divisions.
more encouraged to make sure that's like it's safe and people are healthy. They're not just destroying themselves to win a medal. Yeah.
Last question before we wrap things up is, for anyone listening, what is, whether it's, a piece of advice to do with prep, a piece of advice just to do with any female who's starting out of the gym, what's just something that you would like to share for anyone listening that you think is something that you've recently learned, or something that you've taken through your bodybuilding journey so far that's been an important lesson and advice that you'd like to share?
I think just like no matter what you do, it's like just make sure you're doing it for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, like doing it because it's your passion. And always just sticking true to like your values in that. Like no matter how far you get along of a journey, always being, yeah, true to you. Don't lose yourself through the process to anything that someone else may want for you, or yeah, I think just be true to you and do something that holds a lot of value to you.
Yeah. No, I think that I like that. I agree, because for example, with you, like, let's say, you had your eyes set on wellness, but let's say people were saying to you, oh, but with your upper body development, you're more suited to figure. You should do figure. You should do figure. And it's good that you still stay true to yourself, was and what you believed in and what you wanted to achieve, and
What's going to make you happy and
not get peer pressured. Because I feel sometimes we tend to. I think it's good to listen to people around you, but it's
yeah,
listening to the right people around you, but always remembering, like you said, what's important to you.
yeah, like input and advice is good, but like at the end of the day, I think you always know yourself best. So like just making sure you take the time to really like hear what you've got to say, and yeah, never doing something because it may make someone else happy, because in the end, whenever you do something for someone else, you're probably not going to feel as good as if you did it for yourself anyway. Yeah.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.